Imagine waking up in a world where you could relive the memories of your ancestors. Not through dusty journals or faded family photos, but by stepping directly into their lives, running across rooftops, diving into political conspiracies, and witnessing history firsthand. That's the world of Assassin's Creed, a global gaming phenomenon. But how much of it is real? How much of this epic time-traveling adventure is grounded in actual history? The truth is more fascinating than fiction. To understand the roots of Assassin's Creed, we need to go back, way back, to the time of the actual assassins. Not the hooded figures leaping off towers into haystacks, but a secretive sect that really existed over 900 years ago. The real assassins were called the Nizari Ismailis, a branch of Shia Islam, and they operated in the Middle East during the 11th to 13th centuries. Their most notorious base was Alamut Castle, nestled in the mountains of modern-day Iran. From this stronghold, they launched precision strikes against political enemies, always targeted, always strategic. They were not mindless killers. They were more like spies, warriors, and political operatives rolled into one. Sound familiar? According to medieval sources, particularly those written by their enemies, the assassins used hashish to brainwash their recruits, promising them paradise if they followed orders. This is likely where the word assassin originates. But modern scholars now question this version. The idea of drugged-out killers in a paradise illusion might be more propaganda than reality. It's kind of like how history paints pirates as lawless savages. The truth is more nuanced, more human, and often much more complicated. The creators of Assassin's Creed, the game, took this fragment of truth and spun it into a fictional universe. In the game's lore, the assassins fight for free will, opposing the Templars who seek control through order. It's an age-old philosophical battle, freedom versus control. But believe it or not, the Knights Templar were real too. The real Knights Templar were a Catholic military order founded around 1119 during the Crusades. These knights were fierce warriors, but they were also bankers, possibly one of the earliest forms of international banking. They helped pilgrims travel safely to the Holy Land by holding their money and issuing letters of credit. In time, they became powerful, and like many powerful institutions, they made enemies, including King Philip IV of France. In 1307, he arrested and tortured many of them, accused them of heresy, and dissolved the order. This real-world clash between two mysterious, powerful factions, the Assassins and the Templars, inspired the core of the game. But the game isn't just a medieval fantasy. It transports players to ancient Greece, Victorian London, Renaissance Italy, and even revolutionary America. These time periods are rich with historical detail, and Ubisoft, the game's developer, hired historians and consulted academic texts to get the settings just right. Take Assassin's Creed 2, where players run through Florence and Venice during the Italian Renaissance. You meet Leonardo da Vinci, who provides you with gadgets and upgrades like a Renaissance Q from James Bond. Surprisingly, that's not far-fetched. Da Vinci really did design flying machines, war gear, and even an armored tank. He was a genius ahead of his time. Even the in-game art and architecture are stunningly accurate. The Florence Cathedral Santa Maria del Fiore is rendered down to the last brick. Historical figures like Lorenzo de' Medici, Rodrigo Borgia, and Machiavelli are central to the plot. Sure, they're fictionalized, but they're based on real people with real influence and real scandals. The historical sandbox becomes even more jaw-dropping when we dive into Assassin's Creed Origins. Set in ancient Egypt during the reign of Cleopatra, the game recreates temples, streets, and tombs in remarkable detail. Egyptologists were amazed by the accuracy down to the hieroglyphs on the walls. Ubisoft even created a Discovery Tour mode for educational purposes, removing combat and turning the game into a walking museum. But let's pause and ask, what is the truth that the game gets right and what is pure fantasy? The biggest divergence is, of course, the Animus, a sci-fi machine that allows modern-day characters to relive ancestral memories through genetic code. It's a brilliant storytelling device, but scientifically speaking, it's impossible. DNA carries a blueprint of our bodies, not a video archive of our memories. You can't extract a detailed memory of your great-great-grandfather's last sword fight from a strand of your hair. Not yet anyway. Then there's the idea of a secret war between the Assassins and Templars shaping human history. That's mostly fiction. While both groups existed, there's no evidence of a centuries-long clandestine conflict between them. but it's an incredible narrative framework to explore real history with a twist. Think of it this way. Assassin's Creed is like historical fan fiction with a billion-dollar budget. It takes authentic locations, real people, and actual events, then injects them with adrenaline, conspiracy, and a moral debate about freedom and control. It's both educational and escapist, which is why it resonates so deeply. One of the most fascinating examples of this historical fiction blend is Assassin's Creed 3, set during the American Revolution. You meet George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and Paul Revere, all real figures with real political agendas. But in the game, Washington is also involved in a Templar conspiracy. While this is pure fiction, it taps into real tensions of the era. Secret societies, distrust in leadership, and the fear of absolute power. And then there's Assassin's Creed Black Flag, pirates, treasure, and ship battles in the Caribbean. Now, this one might feel like complete fantasy, but it's surprisingly grounded. Historical pirates like Blackbeard, Charles Vane, and Calico Jack appear in the game. The cities, Havana, Nassau, Kingston, are based on real colonial ports. The ship mechanics are inspired by actual naval combat. Ubisoft even drew from 18th century maritime manuals to replicate sailing techniques. Sure, the main character climbs masts like Spider-Man and dives into the ocean to explore sunken temples guarded by sharks, but the historical bones are there. The myths around pirates, the Jolly Roger flag, buried treasure, drunken brawls, those were real too, though often exaggerated. So what makes Assassin's Creed special is not whether it's entirely true or false, it's how it makes you feel like you're inside history. You're not just reading about Cleopatra, you're talking to her. You're not watching the Boston Tea Party on a screen, you're throwing the tea into the harbor yourself. But there's more. The series doesn't shy away from moral gray areas. The assassins aren't perfect, sometimes their actions cost innocent lives. The Templars believe in order, and sometimes that brings peace. The game forces you to question both sides, something real history rarely allows. This complexity deepens in newer titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you play as a Viking. It explores the Norse invasion of England, a period filled with bloodshed and cultural clash. While the main character, Eivor, is fictional, the political backdrop is real: King Alfred, Danelaw, and the spread of Christianity. Even the mythological elements like Odin and Valhalla are tied to real Norse beliefs. The game seamlessly blends fact and legend, just as medieval people did. To them, gods and monsters were real forces in the world. In Valhalla, you don't just fight Saxons, you journey to Asgard and interact with Norse gods. It's a clever way of showing how myth and reality blurred in the ancient mind. And that might be the biggest truth Assassin's Creed captures. History isn't just facts and dates. It's also stories, myths, perceptions, and interpretations. It's messy, complicated, and full of people trying to do what they think is right, just like us. But here's something most fans don't know. Assassin's Creed was originally planned as a spin-off of the Prince of Persia series. Ubisoft wanted to create a game where you protected a prince, an idea that evolved into a story about an elite order of assassins. The shift from fantasy to historical fiction was deliberate. They wanted to make you feel in history, not above it. And over time, the franchise has become a tool for actual historians. Several educational institutions use parts of the game to teach architecture, urban planning, and history. That's right, a video game that's essentially a stealth and sword sandbox is now helping teach college classes. So, is Assassin's Creed historically accurate? Let's put it this way, it's not a textbook. But it's not a comic book either. It's a carefully constructed time machine that lets you explore the past with modern eyes. You'll meet real people, walk real streets, and witness real events, all while engaging in fictional, philosophical, and sometimes supernatural narratives. It may not always get the details right, but it gets the feel of history right: the intrigue, the danger, the politics, the ambition, the beauty, and the brutality. And in a world where people are increasingly disconnected from history, where the past feels dusty and distant, Assassin's Creed does something remarkable. It makes history thrilling. It turns textbooks into battlegrounds, monuments into climbing walls, and long-dead legends into living characters. That's the real magic behind Assassin's Creed, not just the code, the graphics, or the storylines, but the way it reawakens curiosity about where we come from and who we are. Because maybe, just maybe, the past isn't as far away as we think. If you enjoyed uncovering the truth behind Assassin's Creed, don't miss our deep dive into Viking myth and reality in Ragnar Lothbrok, The Truth Behind the Legend. Click now to keep the adventure going.